Recent changes in the law have allowed co-ops and condos to shift from in-person to virtual meetings. While virtual meetings allow for greater participation, they're not without their limitations. It's important for boards to understand these limitations and to adopt protocols to address them in order to have an efficient meeting. While disruptive and unruly attendees can affect any meeting, it is easier in a virtual setting for people to interrupt one another and to talk over each other. This is why it's highly encouraged for boards to keep all attendees on mute during their presentations. One way to do this is, for instance, if you are using the Zoom platform, to disable the function that allows participants to unmute themselves. I have been in meetings where people have not turned off this function and attendees have unmuted themselves and engaged in heated discussions before the meeting was even called to order. While it's important to prevent these types of outbursts, it's also important to give attendees the opportunity to ask questions. Many boards solicit questions in advance of the meeting and address them during their presentations, as well as hold a question and answer portion of the meeting where attendees can use the raise hand function and be called on and unmuted by the board. Both are very effective. However, we highly recommend that a question and answer portion be incorporated into each meeting. In the instances where they're not, you'll often get attendees that will later complain that they were not given the opportunity to participate. One effective way to streamline virtual meetings is, if your bylaws permit, to prohibit nominations from the floor and to solicit them well in advance of the meeting by sending out a save the date. Nominations should be submitted before the notice of meeting is sent out to all unit owners or shareholders, so that the notice can indicate whether or not the election will be contested, and if so, can include with it the candidates' bios as well as a directed proxy. The notice should also be accompanied with clear directions on how to submit your proxy as well as how to vote. And while it may seem obvious, people should be reminded that they have to attend the meeting either via proxy or in person in order to vote. Virtual meetings are fairly new and still create some confusion. So oftentimes people who do not attend the meeting will still submit an electronic ballot. It is therefore also important to keep track of who's attending the meetings, not only so that you can establish whether or not a quorum was reached, but also to be able to check the ballots against the attendee list and make sure that they're valid. It is also important to verify that those in attendance are indeed authorized to vote. A useful tool is having people pre-register for the meeting. This not only allows boards to verify that those attending are indeed authorized to vote, but it also allows the board to have some indication of whether or not they will be able to obtain quorum. In the event that a lot of people have not registered or submitted their proxies, boards oftentimes send out communication encouraging people to register and or submit proxies, and this often helps them achieve quorum. And lastly, all people presenting at the meeting should test their equipment and their virtual meeting apps to make sure that they're functioning properly. Even though your Zoom app may have worked for you yesterday, that's no guarantee that it's going to work for you today. So it's better to be safe than sorry and to double check so that you don't find out during your meeting that you'll have some sort of technical malfunction. Unfortunately, I've learned this the hard way.